It's another beautiful day here in the Shire. And this time, Renee has
these old-fashioned donuts. They're the kind you might have found in a bakery in 1955. Simple, honest, and best enjoyed with a nice hot cup of coffee. And I'm going to show you how to make them. First step, we're going to add some sugar. We're going to add some salt, some baking powder, and some yummy, delicious nutmeg. And that is the flavor, that is the secret flavor of these old-fashioned donuts. It just brings back childhood memories. So we're going to stir these up, make sure it's all mixed in well. And then we're going to start adding our wet ingredients. The first ingredient is some milk, whole milk. We're going to add an egg. I'm going to take this egg and just beat it in this bowl before I put it in there so that it gets totally mixed. And I take it and pick it up and stir like that. You just want all the yellows to mix in and all the whites. You don't want to see separation at all. That looks perfect. Dump that in. We've got some melted butter that I've cooled so that it doesn't cook that egg. And we have some vanilla. And now we're just going to take our spatula and stir that all together. Make sure that gets mixed in there properly. And then we're going to take our flour. We're going to dump that right in there. Stir this together. You don't have to worry about deflating this or anything. You can just stir this like you normally would anything that doesn't need to be folded. Just keep scraping those sides. Make sure you get everything mixed in there. There, that looks perfect. The flour has not incorporated with that liquid. So we're going to put this in the refrigerator and let that flour absorb all of that liquid. We will put that in the refrigerator for about an hour and we'll be back and I'll show you how to cook these. When I was a little girl, my grandmother made donuts. It's such a fond memory for me, and this recipe that I'm making today tastes exactly like her recipe. I'd like to know if you have a special person that you would like to share with us, and if you would, please put it in the comments below. I'd love to hear about it. Okay, so I just took these out of the refrigerator. I had covered them with some saran wrap, and they've come out. They look great, and so I've floured my board heavily. Quite heavily. Once I start cutting these, I'm going to move them over onto this pan that I've put flour on. I also put a piece of parchment paper on. You don't have to use a parchment paper, but you definitely need the flour. These are quite sticky. So we're going to start by scooping these out onto that board. Make sure you get all that deliciousness out of the pan. Okay, so I have a 2.5-inch donut cutter, and I've got some extra flour here because you're going to want to have that cutter coated in flour before you cut these. They're very sticky at this point, so we're going to put just a little bit of flour on top of those, and we're going to start rolling those out. And I'm going to put a little bit of flour here. We want to roll this to a 1/2 inch. You can double this recipe with no problem whatsoever, just ×2. And you want to be on the heavier side of a 1/2 inch, not the thinner side. And that's perfect. So that's exactly what you want that width to be, thickness to be. And then we're just going to put this in flour and we're going to start cutting. And now we're going to take those. The first one's a little more difficult to come out than the rest of them because it hasn't been used yet. So we're going to stick that back in the flour. We're going to cut those and twist to cut that through. then just put your finger down inside and poke that out. So I'm sticking my thumb in there if they stick a little bit and just helping that come out so it doesn't lose its shape. Scrape that up. I'm going to put that back together a little bit. Put some more flour down on the board. Put back together again and just keep rolling them out until you don't have any dough left. Okay, so that's that. We don't need that flour anymore. If you don't have a bench scraper, this is the best one of my favorite tools in the kitchen. It seriously takes care of a lot of stuff that you get on your counter. Now my oil is heating. I want it up to 375 and we're just about there. While we're waiting, the donut hole has its own origin story. A sailor from Rockport, Maine named Hanson Gregory claimed he invented it back in 1847. He said he used a ship's tin pepper box, whatever that is, to punch the centers because he thought they would cook more evenly. And supposedly, that's where we got the hole in the donut. And actually, it's a perfect, it sounds perfect because if you don't put these holes in, they puff up and they're raw in the middle. So we'll go with that story. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to put in a donut hole and try it. These cook for 1 minute on both sides, maybe a little bit longer on the second side. And this is at exactly 375 at this moment. So I'm going to turn my heat down just a little bit. The entire time you're cooking these, you're going to watch how that temperature is moving. If it's going up and it's close, you turn it down. If it's got down, you turn it up, but you just continuously watch it. Okay, so those are perfectly fried. So we're going to turn that over. It's been about a minute. And we're going to go for another. And that's exactly the color we want. Those look beautiful. And see the bubbles are just bubbling nicely around those little small bubbles, and they're just about done because the bubbles have just about stopped. Okay, so we're going to take those out, and then I'm going to drain the oil off of these and plop them in a bowl of sugar. And then we just take those 2 donut holes and we just start flipping them around with the sugar in there. You can also put cinnamon in this sugar. If you would like cinnamon and sugar donuts, these, because of the nutmeg, are just so delicious. The first time I made these, I was so impressed with how they tasted with just the sugar. I left them that way. Okay, so now I'm back up to 375. I'm gonna leave that for just a minute, and I'm gonna take a whole donut.
The oil's ready, and Renee's about to introduce those donuts to their destiny right after this. Clear your schedule, because the next few moments might ruin every donut you will ever see again.
And I'm going to drop that in. I'm going to drop that in. That's dropping just a bit because of the donuts being in there. So I've turned it up another smidge. And if you put too many donuts in this oil, it takes the temperature down too low and they get greasy. You want this to be right at this temperature. And see how those bubbles are? They're just bubbling away because that's not done. All right, so time to turn those over. I have chopsticks. I found that these work the best when you're working with these donuts. And those look absolutely perfect. I'm going to put those on for another minute. And that temperature is still dropping, so I've got that up a little bit more. It's only down a little bit, but we're going to just make sure that gets back up to temperature. And I smell, you can smell the nutmeg cooking. Let's see how those... And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to take the donuts. They're very hot, so technically you should pick them up like this and put them in there. And then start shaking that. So here are our finished donuts. I've sprinkled a little nutmeg over the top of each one of these. It just adds a little bit of flavor. I've picked out a couple of donuts that I just wanted to show you what these look like. This is a plain donut. These are the nooks and crannies that you want in these. This is what makes these old-fashioned. They crack and they cook, and they are just so light and airy inside, perfectly done on the outside. And then the other way is I waited about a minute to a minute and a half, and then I put them in the sugar, and this has got granulated sugar. I can still flake that right off. And let's give this a taste. Oh. That just takes me through the door of my grandmother's house. That is delicious. I hope you enjoy these, and thank you.
Ready for seconds? YouTube knows where to take you, so jump on over to the next delicious recipe or try the sampler. Renee's already waiting for us, so I'll meet you there.